Welcome to the Landscaping Podcast. My name is Joel Barnett, and today's episode is the season finale of the podcast. So probably going to have, 5 weeks off, I think. So hoping to get back into it towards the end of January or February 2022. I've got some guests lined up already. Well, they've said that they're going to come on next year, whether that's just a polite way of saying they're not interested and they will keep putting me off or wait and see. But I'm keen to keep going next year. So if anyone has got a recommendation of a guest, feel free to shoot me a message on Instagram or comment wherever you listen to this. So, or if you're keen to come on yourself, happy to hear from anyone who's keen to be a guest on the podcast. But I've very much enjoyed the 30 episodes after today's that I've done. So I didn't have any plans on how long it would go to start, but having fun, so I'll keep going. Today's guest is Peter Shaw from Ocean Road Landscaping. So Peter's based down in Geelong, where I am down here, and he's got a crew of landscape design, construction, and maintenance. So there's all three facets of the industry there, and we speak about how he works out the hourly rate based on some advice he received in the earlier days. He's also got a book out called Soulscape, so we talk about that. It sounds like a good read, so it's a good time to get that for Christmas. In the background, where he's sitting is the Sunnymead, which is his home garden, which he's got open for the Open Gardens of Victoria on the 15th and 16th of January. And I also asked Peter how he transitioned from being on the tools to start with to the position where he's at today. So should be some good information in this one. So hopefully enjoy this chat with Peter Shaw. Peter, thank you very much for joining us on the Landscaping Podcast. So the first question for you is how you started in the industry.
Well, it was 30 years ago, Joel, and I left school in year 10, actually. I was sort of not that happy at school and a bit out of my zone, and sort of started applying for apprenticeships, and I nearly got a panel beating apprenticeship because it was an exit from school. I can't remember exactly what it was, but the thought of, working inside a shed all day and paints and stuff, all of a sudden I realised it probably wasn't what I wanted, and then continued, and I got offered that job and then continued applying for horticultural apprenticeships and applied at a couple of bowling greens, Geelong Hospital and another big school in Geelong, and sort of got really close with 3 apprenticeships, actually. So I was really lucky at that age, and then chose the bowling club one, and then that progressed to working at the bowling club in Anglesea when I finished 4 years later, which then opened up the opportunity to start a small business, because the bowling club work tended to be in the mornings when you were busy getting the greens and things ready, and then by the afternoon you were sort of a bit free. So I'd go off and do little landscaping projects, and had a ute and a trailer, and I had landscaping plastered all over the side. It was 1993, and that's how I started, really.
So you pretty much self-taught then in terms of landscaping? So your apprenticeship was in greenkeeping, is that right?
That's right. Yeah, pretty much self-taught. Yeah.
Right. So how did you go about doing that, like getting work for people? Did they just ask you to do a certain role and you said, yeah, I can do that, even though you didn't know what you're doing?
Pretty much. No, well, I progressed and I took on what I could do with time and my own skill set. So I sort of gravitated to things I naturally was good at. And I'd been gardening since I was 15 at home. And I'd had jobs on farms and things. So I was pretty handy and practical. And then, just really self-taught. In my first few projects, some of them, you remember the moments when you thought, I really don't really know what I'm doing here. But I worked it out and got through. It took 3 times longer than I should have and didn't make a red cent on any of those projects. But, worked it out and then went from there, really.
So what did you have a business name to start off with? Was it Ocean Road to start with, or was it something different?
Well, that was in the early days. I didn't even have a name. I just had landscaping written on the car, and a phone number, and I still got the same phone number, which is good. That's a landline. Mobiles weren't around, so yeah. Which sounds really old, doesn't it? But then in '95, Simone and I, my wife, we got married. We came back, and she was really terrific. She came from a small business family herself, and sort of geared up, and we no sooner we're coming back on the, on the Spirit of Tasmania from our little trip away, and we were organising business names and jumped in the car and drove up and registered the name Ocean Road Landscaping. So that was in 95. And then, got a few things in place like insurance and bits and pieces that were pretty important, but probably off my radar at the time, that all come into place. And then between 95 and 2000, we sort of turned into maybe a 5 or 6 person operation in that 5 years.
So what sort of workers were you putting on? Were you doing any maintenance at the time, or was it all sort of garden construction?
Well, I sort of put on people that were as good or better than I was. Like, it was one of the key things to find people that could actually do things really, really well. So there was a key person back then that was, he was a retired farmer and wanted to keep working. He was in his early 50s and really good gardener naturally. And he came on board and started looking after the maintenance gardens we had at the time, which freed up the people that were doing the landscaping projects at the time. So I had a few apprentices, mainly local people, and a few people from out of town that were, really good at what they did. Just some key people that really helped build in those early years, helped build the teams that we've got today.
Have you've been based in Anglesea the whole time?
Yes, yep. Yeah, in the out of home, obviously for a fair while, and then probably 18 years ago, we got a depot in the industrial estate, and then expanded that a little bit as time went on, and that's where it all happens today, because there's a fair bit going on at any one time with the different divisions and things. So yeah.
So have you got 3 divisions to the company at the moment? Do you have maintenance, construction, and design? Is that right?
Yes, yeah. So there's 3 designers, landscape architects. So and again, it's the same thing. I sort of set the tone and the values, and that's what these people like as well, the designers. Some of them had different careers outside of ours and in offices and big design studios. Some came from within, and one started fresh out of uni with us, and it's been really, really good. So, I set the tone and the greater value of how we do it, but they're actually technically really, really good landscape architects. And there's, 1 garden designer and 2 landscape architects. They're terrific. So that's one team. And then there's a construction team that's sitting after them. There's about 8 or 9 on them. That's headed up by someone else who's also really good. And then there's a maintenance side with about 6 or 7 on it, and that's again headed up by somebody who has been with the company for 10 or 12 years, and that just ticks along really well. There's always struggles in every area, it's not exactly easy, and then there's a little horticulture team as well. So there's actually 4 teams. The horticulture team's got 2 people in it, and they sort of do little soft landscapes and renovations and go back to the gardens that we've built and look after, and then do little plant adjustments, or if things aren't going so well, pull a few things out, put a few things in, or top up gravel, pebbles, things that sort of need that ongoing. The maintenance is huge. It's a big part of our business. It's about 1/3 of the business, but it's a big part in terms of being able to present the work, in a good state. Without the maintenance, it's out of your hands. We've been able to sort of cap in the design and cap in the maintenance and build them in the middle, and that sort of helped the suite of things. The design came later. That's probably been around for 10 years, but the maintenance was there from the start, really.
Yeah, I've said it a few times. The maintenance is probably the most underrated thing within landscaping, because you can do an awesome design, build it exactly the way it's designed. It looks awesome, but then if you don't maintain it, then what's the point? It just turns to rubbish. So whereabouts did the design? How did that all start 10 years ago? Did you start doing designs just naturally from as the jobs came on?
Yep. Yeah. So I was sort of back of the envelope sketching, not quite back of the envelope. I got a decent piece of paper and sketched on that. And it was pretty raw, and it worked, but it soon became obvious that there was a massive opportunity to design. And so one of the fellows at the time in the team was wanting to do design and studying. So he took that on, and we got Vectorworks introduced, which is the landscape suite package we use. And that sort of came in, and then we sort of added one to his number, and then he went on and became a landscape architect. So it was a good couple of years with him, and then the others came in, and it was just it just sort of happened naturally, but all of a sudden there's 3 and there's enough work for 3 of them. We don't build all the gardens they design. We probably do about 25 designs a year and probably only build 15 or 16 or something. So the others are just design only that we do. We do those a bit remotely too, in different locations, so travel a little bit for that, which is fun to get out of your comfort zone where you normally work and used to, and apply the same principles up in Trentham or over on the, the other peninsula or South Australia. We did one, and as you just sort of apply the same landscape principles but do it, and they love it. They're really good. They're so good at their work. It's terrific.
Yeah, that's something that, it just breaks up. It makes it a bit more exciting and something different from the standard ones all around the coast. What about the maintenance side of things? What percentage of maintenance of your maintenance gardens are ones that you build?
Probably about half, and we build that 15 or 16 a year, and most of them stay on. A few don't. A few have already got something in place, or they already had a gardening crew coming in and the property was pretty big or something, and so they just kept that crew going. But most of the sort of what we call our sort of bread and butter jobs, where they're a typical holiday house on the coast somewhere, people have bought it or had it for years. Often they've had it for years and they decide it's time to do something. They spend the money, get it signed, wait the time, get it built, and get it looked after, and it just sort of folds into that. So we do have those. A lot of them are that, and that's the preferred model, because then they just become ongoing. Well, it's a good business model, but it's also really good for the garden because it just has that consistency of the same people that know how to treat things. And as we take one or two might come at the end of the year or towards sort of September. Some years we need to sort of peel off a few of the older gardens that aren't on the maintenance side, that aren't really, not necessarily wrong. They're not wrong for us, but we've just got too many and you can't get to them all. It's ridiculous with, the demand of Christmas and everything. We're better to let somebody who's starting out, who just does the mowing and the basic cleanup work, do some of them, because you just can't. You don't want to get rid of things, but it's important to actually process it as a business and go, well, if we've got a nice garden that we've built and the people want it looked after, we don't want to be short on time there, basically. You could kind of, with our maintenance, it feels like you could nearly double the numbers and still have work, but you just lose quality and lose control. It's hard enough as it is with 7 or 8 to keep it rolling. To suddenly go bigger would be really hard, and you just lose momentum, lose sort of that. It's not control, but that the value, I guess, that we want to present.
Yep. So going back to when you were working on the tools, how did you make the shift to? Because I assume you're not on the tools anymore, are you? So how did you make that change?
It was probably 10 or 15 years ago. It sort of became obvious for me. Like there was, and those key people really, really helped. And I think I said to them I'd want to work in the office one day a week, thinking they were all going to be shocked and whatever. And it was well embraced at the time. And I got more done in that one day than I did on site. And one of my apprentices from back then rang me the other day. He's got his own business now in Tassie, and he goes, "You told me one day in the office is like 2 weeks on site." And you're right. I didn't even know I said that. I'm not quite sure whether it feels like that now. But so it was just gradual, a couple of days a week, and I got things done, got organised, lined things up, did the quoting, and I was doing that during the day, not in the evening. Yep. That made a big difference. And then, we were having children at the time, and they were all young, so suddenly the evenings are busy enough as it is with young kids, or any kids at any age. So that transformed it a bit, and then all of a sudden it just became obvious that that's where I needed to be 80% of the time. And so some weeks ago past back then, I think, I haven't been out this week. I won't get to today because I've got to do this or do that. And then it just became the norm. That's where I spent my time. It's tempting to stay in the office though. It's not like when you're on site, you've got to decide when to go. Otherwise, if it's your own business, you just stay and stay and stay. And all of a sudden it's 6 o'clock and you're like, oh, you can hear all the noise upstairs if I was at home in the office at the time, which I was. And you just go from work to home and it's just foggy for the rest of the evening because you haven't really stopped, you're just. So the next trick after getting off the tools was actually learning to be disciplined with time a bit and, allow some gaps between home and work, and especially with kids at the time, and, just going back into the family life, which is, just busy and hectic at times.
Yeah. So have you done any like business courses or business coach or anything like that? Because you'd have to be running the business side of things really well to be off site and having all the different elements to the business.
Yeah, we did. We've over the years have run different sponsored programs. The government ran the local shire ran one called Business Development Network in the 90s. We did that one. I'm just really interested in business, and it's just kind of what I like. I get more excited about. I love gardening. It's my absolute passion. If I had to do only one thing with my time, it would be have a big garden somewhere and just work on it all day, and inside, outside, without the pressure of everything. But that would be where I'd gravitate, and that's what I do on the weekends. But I'm fairly driven by results, and I love the people are the biggest thing actually. So you've got to be out of the business side to make it sustainable, otherwise you fall over. I've had lots of hard times, times where money was really tight. We were borrowed to the hilt and needed something new and had to borrow more, and it just hasn't been easy over that period. And you take a risk and do what you need to do and get the gear and go out, or get the right people. So I've always been a bit of a risk taker, I suppose, in terms of, or being able to see through the risk and say, well, if this all works, it'll be fine, it'll settle. I'm not sort of interested in shooting every light out and being on top of everything. You still got to be happy with what you do and keep people happy and things like that. So done a lot of business training and courses, but nothing sort of formal. It's just sort of come naturally.
Yeah,
and talking to people as well helps. And
so do you have like staff meeting, not staff meeting, but team meetings each morning or once a week, or how does that work so that everyone knows what they're doing?
Well, the teams themselves have their regular weekly meetings, and then I would meet with each team usually once a month or something. Sometimes it's pretty casual. It just sort of flows in. I meet with the leaders regularly and talk daily, so it's sort of we're not structured as such, but to have 25 or 4 people or something, you need to have some formal or informal systems in place. So the leaders sort of head up. So there's a lead designer, there's a lead maintenance person, there's operations manager for each side is actually what we call them. But we're not big on sort of titles and names and things, but they sort of take the brunt of the daily. If I get involved at that level, I probably get just frustrated or get in the way, actually, to be honest. I probably get frustrated. I just get in the way, and people think, Peter rang me and said this. Like, he's never done that before. Why would he do that? I don't know. I sort of bypass, if I try and bypass the leader and just, I'll just give him a quick call, and that doesn't always go well. But I definitely try and keep in connection with everybody in the mornings as much as I can. Wander around the yard. That's a big thing. Just wandering around or turning up on site occasionally and saying g'day, or doing a few social things, just to help. Because it's a family business. At the end of the day, everyone's really valued. You need to know about what's happening in everybody's lives, and that's something I think I have maintained, to know the ups and downs and the difficulties and what's happening in relationships and children, and pressures of finance and whatever. There's different people in different positions, and it's good to know that over the years. And that's something I've always maintained, a pretty close relationships on that level, and encourage people to get qualified or get skilled or get better at what they're doing. And encourage them to stay and encourage them to go, or let them go when the time's right for them, because you can't keep everyone forever. And sometimes they've all got things they want to try and do with their lives or go out on their own. A lot of people have gone out on their own, which is, I think, is really good. I foster that, and you don't think you've sort of helped them, but you hope they learned something when they were in a bigger business. Maybe not from me, but definitely from the people around them. So
that's one of the caring about your people is going to be one of the biggest things you could do for your business, because they're the most important part, like you said before, because they're the ones who do the work and represent your business. So it's going to help if they're working somewhere where they feel valued.
Yes. Yep.
Are there
definitely
any like apps that you use that make things easier to communicate with everyone?
Yeah, we use Slack. Have you heard of that one?
I've heard of it, but never actually looked into it. But, a couple of people have mentioned that.
Yeah, it's like a team managing app. So it's just, you could send a message to everybody. You could send a message to 2 or 1 or 4. You have, it's pretty good. It's worth getting into. We probably use, it's kind of the base for communication. if somebody takes something from the yard to use for a job, we use Slack to record it, plus a job sheet or a piece of paper, but it all gets recorded there. Great for messaging, great for me to be able to quickly say, g'day everyone, just thanks for the week or whatever, or there's a Christmas parties on this date, or put a photo up of something it's a little bit like a closed Instagram group, you know, you can thank everyone for what they've done or whatever, put a post up, and yeah, that's good. Yeah, and we use a lot of spreadsheets. We don't have anything much more complicated than that. Back to the business side, that's something I did learn early and self-taught, but spreadsheets to work out hourly rates and costs of jobs and track it all. And we basically use the same one we developed 15 years ago. And same with our overhead structure. That was something we had a really, really good accountant in the 90s that just set us up really well. You know, between basically the same firm, it sort of got sold and bought out. But this particular person just really taught us about working out an hourly rate was kind of the key thing. What are your base costs, and you know, why are you doing it for nothing or next to nothing, or why are you going backwards on these, because you've got to charge that. And I very early learnt about the depletion of time. You know, if you have a staff member and you pay them for 2,400 hours a year, they're only working for you for 1,700. You've got to cover that 30%, which is annual leave, sick days, you know, public holidays, downtime when they're at work but not working, fixing the truck tire or doing the maintenance on the gear, whatever that is. That all gets pulled into this big number, which he helped us. Something that really clicked early on. So back to your earlier question, that was a big part of just understanding that. You just apply that to everything. Then you think, well, what's it really going to cost? You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I only mentioned it for the first time last week's episode. Where I got taught to work out your hourly rate, add up all your expenses, and then divide it by 222, because that's how many working days you can do when you take out in a year, like when you take out annual leave, sick leave, and all the weekends. But then again, like you say, there's always those things that come up when you are working that you're not accounting for. So you probably need to divide by even less than 222. The number gets really low, and surprisingly, you think surely it can't be that many weeks away from work. Yep, it is.
So
it feels like for an employee that there's no way that they have that much off, but because they feel like they're working all the time, I'm sure. But, now your background, I assume, is at your place in Anglesea called Sunnymead. Is that how long you've been there for?
Nearly 20 years, 19 years or something. So when we'd moved to Anglesea as I said earlier, in the early 90s, and then bowling club things, and then when we got married, we stayed here and bought a place, and then sold that, and rented down the road. We just loved the little area here, how quiet it was and sheltered from the winds. And we walked past, there was a few blocks for sale at the time, 98 or 99 or something. And then, walked past this block and walked in and loved it, and decided we were having children. We had one already, a baby, and one on the way, the two boys. We've got 4 altogether now. But and we just thought, if we don't get a place, can't be renting, for the rest of our lives. With kids, we just need to give them something to stay, and the land became an obvious thing. It's 1,300 metres or something. It's a good sized block. It's a great location, and not a flat area, but it's up the top of the hill, so we've always had to walk up and down, so that's kept us fit. The kids walk up and down, ride bikes up and down. So,
what was there when, because you keep that, you open that up for open gardens every now and then. So what was there when you first moved in?
It was a rare bush block, so it was just one of those blocks that had never had it might have had a house on it, a small structure that burnt down in the fires, maybe a small structure. It's hard to get the full history, but it wasn't a house. It was never a house. And so it was just stringy barks and old wattles and weeds and things. But the trees in the background were all here. There's a beautiful twisted tree that, was right in the center of the block. It's just off to my side. And that was a great tree to climb. So as soon as we got here, we just climbed up and saw a bit of a glimpse of the water. You don't see a lot of water, but and you can see other people had done that. It had tracks up the bark, where it had been worn out. And everybody going, what can you see? And when a block had sold down the road, and we thought, that went pretty quick. We better grab it and start planning. And so, we did. And it felt a bit funny because you always think you pay too much for something at the time. We'd sold a house and for pretty much the same amount of money, bought the block. And we thought, we don't even have a house, same mortgage. And obviously now you don't even think about that.
Yeah.
I should have bought 3 of the things. So yeah, Sunny, and it's named after the estate. Was called Sunnymead Estate when it was first developed. And there's a Sunnymead beach down the road. So yeah, we quite like the name, and it's open in January this year.
What dates in January is it?
15th and 16th.
Oh.
And
when was the first time you opened it?
Oh, it would be 10 years ago. Yeah, and it's been about every 2 years since then, maybe 11 or 12 years. The first year it's got more. It's a summer opening, so it really helps to have Anglesea is pretty busy. So there's probably 20,000 people in the town, or 15 or something, and we usually get 1,800 or something come over 2 days, so 700 or 800 a day, or 900 a day. It's pretty busy, but it felt surreal last year because January things were sort of getting a bit. 2 years ago, just the place was full of people, and a month later you couldn't even sort of stand close to anyone. So it felt surreal, but it's a gift to be able to open it again 2 years on, and things are looking better, and it's fun. It's something you do as a garden owner that you do. It's stressful because you sort of feel like it's your private space and you don't want to. Yeah. But after you realise it's quite addictive actually, because you just enjoy sharing, and people see things you don't see, and I sort of tend to get a bit see the problems or see the faults, or see the things that need fixing, or need my time that I don't have, or money spent or whatever. But yeah, when people come, they sort of don't see any of that. They just appreciate it, and it's good.
Yeah. What's the most common question that you get asked?
How do you mow the lawn, which is the mounds?
Yep.
And
how do you mow the lawn?
With the question, actually just use a mower, just a Honda mower, up high, catcher, up and over. It's good for the back here. I'm a bit of a runner, and some of the gardeners are runners, so it's kind of a bit of training. A while ago, we used to just whippersnip it and let it get a bit long, but it's kept a bit neater these days, and just mowed with a rotary mower, and yeah, it's easy.
You thought of getting one of those robot mowers to hoon around on there?
I thought about it. Yeah, one of the guys encouraged me to do it. I'm not sure. I probably should get them to come and trial it on the mounts. It could be a good thing for them. They might sponsor it.
It's not a bad idea.
Yeah, it could do 4-wheel drive, or at least take photos of it here having a go. I might do that actually. That's a good idea. Yeah,
you get a free mower out of it.
Or at least get to see.
And just recently you released a book as well. How did that all come about? Is that your first one? Or have you had more?
Yeah. No, you only don't do many of those in your life. I was probably about 10 years ago, I thought about doing it. Maybe the time we started opening the garden and things, I thought, there's a bit of something to give here. There's a bit of something people are interested in. I probably didn't really see it that way much. So I sort of thought about it and just put it on hold. And then 4 years ago, travelled with I didn't really know them, but became friends with them to this trip to South America with a group of really good, keen gardeners, and one had written a few books, and one of them particularly encouraged me to do it and said, you should definitely do it. It's worth doing. And about the same time, I'd been offered this sort of quiet, creative retreat space that I had to sort of help keep it clean and whatever. It's not here at home. It's on a property about 10 minutes from here, just a little cottage. So I was using that space informally once a month or something, just to get away and sort of have some quiet time. And kids come with me occasionally, or Simone would come occasionally, just sort of a nestle down time. And I realised that space had come right at the right time, so that became a bit of a writing space. I didn't go there all that often, but maybe once a month, and churned away. And there was no deadline, there was no pressure. It was just me thinking, I'll start, I'll write. And it's not something I gravitated to naturally, and then had a little bit of help with one of the people at work doing some editing and getting it ready. And then a year before it came out, sent it to a publisher who was willing to take it on. Sent it to a couple, or two actually, and one it wasn't quite right for them, and the next one they were willing to take it on. And then I had 12 months pretty much it came out within 12 months of that date. And so that sort of 7 months or 8 months before that was very time consuming and deadlines and new photos and pulling it all together. But yeah, it just came out of wanting to share that, I think, and knowing there's a story there and trying not to make it, trying to make it about what's actually happens behind the scene, which isn't one person, it's 25 people and a family, and a supportive family at that. Simone and I work in the business together. So it's not just me thinking, I need to write about this. It's actually putting them in the spotlight and saying, and it happens because of people doing their work and being passionate about gardening and landscaping and design and plants. And that's been a gift to be able to share that, especially with them, and give them all a copy and tell them it's actually about them, really. Yeah, and anyone else that's been a part of the crew for 25 years, I sort of feel like they're all a part of it, really, whether they're still working or not. They've been a part of the story, which is just a gift, really.
Yeah, and it's called Soulscape, is that right?
That's right. Yep.
So where did the name come from for that?
Well, I'm a pretty I'm a soulful sort of person. I contemplate things and think. I'm an introvert by nature, and I sort of like to think I sort of slow down and take notice of what's happening around me, and so I sort of feel like life is lived from in here and out. That's how I feel, and it's how I've sort of developed as a person. So I started jotting names down on the kitchen bench after the contract was signed, or before, around that time when it was getting close, and I had Seascape, Soulscape, Oceanscape, or all sorts of different, Ocean Road, all sorts of different things, and then the Soulscape just stood out strongly. And then when I showed Simone, she said, "That's it, that's the one." I went, "Okay, you think so?" And then the publisher liked it, and so I didn't ask him more questions after that. I thought, no, that's good. I usually don't like made up words, so I sort of find them a bit corny, but it's worked for me, I think. So
yeah, it's a good one. I like it. It's not one. Yeah, you don't look at it and think, "Oh, that doesn't make any sense." Like it does make sense. So yeah, it's a perfect one for it. So you mentioned that the book's about, like, you're talking about your team and how that they're all part of the journey. But do you do any like design? Do you mention anything about how to design or anything like that in there?
Oh yeah. It's sort of the subtitle's Connecting Gardens to Landscape. It's really about wherever you are, the big picture of landscape, whether it's in a suburban setting or a country setting or a coastal setting, to find elements in that big picture and bring it into the garden so the garden doesn't sit in isolation. So it's a bit about those values. It's a bit about how to. There's a plant glossary. There's 288 pages, I think. So it's a pretty solid book. It's pretty substantial in size. The photos are pretty good from different photographers. I was really lucky to get some really good photographers. One of them I particularly had to chase for a few years to get them to come. They're just busy. They weren't saying no. They're just, maybe later or whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, others were a bit more local, but in the end, between all of them, it's the key, one of the key things. The photos are lovely. I wouldn't have been able to do that, and they've captured the garden as well. So yeah, it's a bit about our story as a business, my story, Simone's story, and the team, and the story of the business, and then how to. And there's 10 gardens profiled. One of them Sunnymead, but there's 9 others that are privately owned by people, and a bit about their story, not their personal details, but a little bit about their details, how they ended up there, whether it's a permanent home or a holiday home, and what it means to them, and some of the challenges they had, in terms of overcoming the initial costs and realizing what the benefits were, or being able to fit it all in their busy lives or whatever. So it's a bit about how to do that, and a lot about weeds, and how important it is to sort of see those, particularly in our environment, to really look at removing some or all, or progressively turning the land back. It's a bit about what the book is really about, what as a gardener you can give back to the landscape, back to the land, or back to the local ecology.
Yeah, going back to the work that the work that you guys are doing, do you do work for other designers as well?
A little bit, yeah. Some of the people we've talked about, we've done some work for. We've got to be a little bit careful because there's a fairly strong demand for our own design. So when you do that, you're not doing. So it's not about doing what you want to do, but I guess if we've got a good relationship with the designer, we would definitely look at it and do it. It's sort of, I don't like saying it like that because it sounds like you're picking and choosing, but you've got to be realistic. And
Oh, you have to, yeah.
You have to, yeah, it's business. And, you know, after 25 to 30 years doing it, you sort of, and it doesn't come naturally to do it that way. I sort of want to please everybody. And if somebody rings, I want to do it.
Yeah.
I'm a born people pleaser. So that's a problem at times. So, but I've got better, and people around me have got better. Go, what are we doing this for? We've got that. It'd be like the maintenance before, you know, you could take on your garden that they've just spent, you know, a small fortune on, and it looks amazing. You could look after that, or you could look after a shack that's just got lawn and a few trees. Might be worth $1 million, but it's, you know, a lot of people could do that. We should focus on the ones that actually, where it's really, really valued, and it's good value for money for that garden. So yeah, the design, we'll definitely talk to other designers. There's a few on the cards at the moment. We've got a few in the past, and quite like that, because that's also good for the team to realize it doesn't all revolve around them and us. You know, other people and designers have got their wishes, and that's probably a good thing. So yeah, yes, definitely.
Yeah, and it's good for the construction team looking at different sets of plans as well, like the different way other people do things. Yeah, I reckon it's a bonus. But like you say, it's tricky because you want to build all of your designs in a perfect world, but you can't do that as it is, let alone taking on other ones. So you have to balance it.
Yeah, and you might have a design that's been finished for a few months, and they're just hanging out to get it done. They've said yes to everything, and you're kind of like, well, you should probably say they've been with us for 6 months waiting for the design to finish, and they've been supportive and happy and really enthusiastic, and then something comes in, or it's been on the wire, things you really should look after probably that's the ethos, to look after the ones that have looked after you in terms of their design funds coming in.
Yeah. What's coming up next year for the business? Is there anything, like, by the sounds of it, you're not going to change the size of the maintenance crew because it's good enough as it is. And so is everything basically the same? A good amount of staff as you've got?
Yeah. We want to try, and we're going to roll over to some of the crew being in-house trained there with their apprenticeships. So start with 1 or 2, which is new for us. We've never done that. I know other businesses have done it, and I contacted them. They're Geelong-based businesses, and they were really supportive of it. They've been doing it for years. So we'll do that. That's good. And then that gives us the chance to look at who else might be on the crew that's not qualified and get them engaged more. And that helps people feel more valuable and, progress forward. So that's something new. There's a new sort of the horticulture team's going to just turn into, instead of being one person full-time and one for 1 day a week, it's going to turn into for 2 days. So we'll look at getting that new person trained. And they're sort of straight off. I heard you mention in your podcast with Jack about, you had a 30-year-old starting who was re-careering. We've got a lot of that, where they re-career and go from, I think yours might have been a chef. Is that right?
Yep.
That's quite common because of the demands of hospitality, and the work's very similar, actually. Garden maintenance and cooking are so similar. We've got a few that have come out of that industry or, dipped in and out of it. But I'm pretty keen about getting that going. The maintenance does need to expand a little bit, so we're always looking for 1 or 2 really good gardeners. If we can get that to about 8, that would be really good. I spoke to another landscape professional about that. I said, I just need 1 or 2 good gardeners. And he just said, don't we all? It's exactly what we need. So, yeah, you're right. But it's always there. And there's plenty of good ones already, doing their work, which is terrific. So you've got to look at what you do have rather than what you don't have too. But settle down a bit next year, I think, and get it into a bit more of a, slower routine. The the designs are fairly booked up, and the work's getting booked in, and the maintenance is always there. So we don't have to sort of, looking forward to not having to rush around as much, just saying, well, we can do things, but we just need time to take it on. So rather than turning up next week to have a look at something, it might be a month or 2 down the track, or 3 months down the track. So that's good. And probably just start looking a bit more within the business. And we've got to get systems a bit better sorted. You're never right. You're never 100%. Sometimes things look good from the outside, as you would know, polished and Instagram perfection. But the reality is it's hard work, and there's always something missing, and always, something breaking and something going wrong, and, things are up and down. But that's a part of the journey. You've got to live with that and learn to enjoy that, and don't see it as a negative. You just got to do the best you can with it. So look, we need to improve a few things and get systems going. We'd love to get some sort of management app to manage, pay levels and tracking jobs and, hours and all that. But every time you've got one, it seems a bit daunting to trial it. So we haven't really started, but it'd be good to do that next year, and get back into continue a good rhythm, I think.
Yeah, that I reckon I'm after that same app that you just mentioned there. I was thinking about it yesterday. I'd love to have one where I can put like the quoted amount on the job and put it down. Each element is X amount, and then as my guys, like when we work on a certain task, you work hours. So you work 3 hours to setting up the paving, and you can sort of allocate it to each different part of the job. So then you can really zoom in on where you're making money and where you're not. Then the guys can see where the money is getting made or not. So just makes it a lot more transparent, because I'll let my guys know what we make on each job or not. So it doesn't bother me with that thing. You just got to find the right app that lets you do that, to keep track of hours and
burrow down. Yeah. There's a few out. We should talk one day about what you've discovered and what we might have discovered, because it'd be good. I'm just looking for someone of a similar, or it's got a business. So this one worked for me, like Slack. You know, you've got to have it because it's so good, and you'll probably try it, and others have, and they love it. And we need that with a management app that does exactly what you said, and particularly manages the pay and tracking hours. And with the different sides of our business, they just work so differently. Like maintenance do 7 jobs a day, or not 7, maybe 6 a day, or 2 gardens, or 6 small ones. Whereas landscaping will be on a job for 6 weeks or 6 months sometimes, and it's different. A lot of moving parts, as you would know.
Exactly, yeah. When I spoke with Sam Colley from SJ Landscaping, he mentioned one which sounded pretty good, and I've got to go back and listen to what he said, and I might get some advice on him, see which one. Because I know he said he edited it to suit their style. So it might be finding an app that's close to it and then changing it to suit your needs.
Yeah, spreadsheets only go so far.
Yeah, thank you very much for taking the time to come on today. I really appreciate your time, and that background is a beautiful spot, so it's a perfect day for it out there today. But thank you very much for coming on.
It's a pleasure, Joel. Thanks for having me. It's great.